one. There are some things that I'm probably not going to get into because there's slightly more advanced concepts. And on top of it, I try to be aware of the time that I want to leave questions at the end. And if I throw too much stuff, I fear that I will confuse folks. So we're going to go through the basics here. There hopefully will be an email 102 or 201 class, a little slightly more advanced. We'll go over some other concepts. Another thing we're talking about doing is having another webinar that talks about the functional side of emailing, strategies, ways to write good emails. So please watch out for that. It'll be in the future. I'm sure Clara will be talking about it. All right, so moving forward, what I wanted to do was I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully Clara can make sure that I am on the right spot.
Yep, we can see your screen, and we're looking at iModules support for volunteers.
Basically, I wanted to let everybody know, I'm sure it's been out there, folks know about it, but just in case, we do have an iModules support website that I've built that will hopefully provide a lot of information that could be your first place to stop and look and see. Even if you can't remember the URL, if you just typed in iModules Cornell volunteers, you will find this site. And to quickly go a little right to left, I wanted to show folks what's on here is on the right side, underneath support, is some information about getting access, how to log in, a section that talks about system status. If for some reason you weren't able to get into iModules, you could go here and see if iModules is up or down. That would be a first indicator. This little piece right here, there's a link to send me actually an email that goes into our ticketing system. I always encourage you to talk to your engagement officers, but if you feel the need to, you can click here, and hopefully any email you send goes in our ticketing system, and I will get back to you within 24 hours. The next side over is a little calendar in which I will try to keep this updated whenever we're having events with the links and information. And here's also where you can go to watch other training sessions between the one I'm doing now and maybe the next one or the last one. There might be another piece of tidbit of information, so you can always go there. The next link is our training materials website where I place iModules provided material and Cornell provided material. The iModules material is rather generic. There may be some things in there that we don't talk about, but what the goal of this training and our training is to provide you shortcuts and with Cornell supported processes and techniques. And the last section for email is this little section right here. If you're doing email, this would be a great place to start. The pull-down menus mirror what is on this side. And this will give you some insights to how to create an email, how to use templates, and how to do reporting. So this would be a great place to go to remind yourself and familiarize yourself. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by building an email. And I'm already into the Cornell Mid-Hudson Alumni Association. They're currently not using this site, so I've hijacked it for our training. So whenever you want to go in and generate an email, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come into your site, log in, and you'll see a bunch of bars across the top. Now, I have a lot of information because I administer the entire system. You'll most likely see emails, and that will probably be about it. So what you want to do is when you want to create an email is come over, email, and click email home. That will take you right here. In this, you're going to see a section, and I'm only going to talk about the things that I'm not going to explain everything that's on the site. I'm just going to go through what's the basics for doing it, for creating an email. The most important button is that one right there. That's how we start the process of creating an email. We're going to click that. Now, I want to take 2 seconds to explain what's going on down here. Is you're going to see 3 blocks. While you're creating an email, any email you are currently actively working on is going to be in this block. It's the Save Drafts section. That's for ongoing emails. The next block is released emails. Emails go from a draft status to being ready to go out. And until they're actually sent out, they're going to live in this section. And then once they're sent out, they're going to move down to this email history section. The transition is from saved to released, and once they're sent out to email history. And the nice thing you can do about an email is anything you're working on, you can start right from where you left off. But let's assume now that there's nothing in here that I want to work on. I'm going to start a brand new email. I'm always going to come up and I'm going to hit one-time custom email. I hate that name. That's an iModules name. That's nothing I have control over, but let's click one-time custom email. And if I'm talking too quick, please let Claire know or let me know. I'll slow it down. I tend to be a fast talker, and so I'll adjust. Whenever we create an email, we're going to have a checklist that's going to go down the side here. We're going to progress from email detail to choosing a template to building content to sending a preview to choosing the recipients to scheduling an email and releasing the email. As we complete each step, you're going to see a check mark. So I just want you to be aware of as we're going to go down in this order. So the first thing in the detail is we're going to put information in here. It's always going to default to the date and the person generating the email, but I can always append anything I want here that makes sense. This is not visible in the email itself, it's just a name. The other thing you'll notice is a little red icon. Anytime you have a red icon, that is a piece of information you must provide. Email description is not required. And you'll also learn that I can't spell. So I placed that in there. That's for your use only. Category. Categories are a way that you can associate an email with a category, and it also allows people to opt out. Everybody can opt out of an email based on the category, and those are in your preference settings at the alumni directory. Where someday we're going to talk about alumni directories, but at cornellconnect.edu is a directory, and you can sit there and say, I want to get emails from Mid-Hudson, and I only want to get them from the Mid-Hudson Alumni Association category. This doesn't have as much with your groups, but when we do large emails from Cornell Alumni Affairs and Developments, we have about 15 different categories. It allows people to build the kind of, it allows them to control the type of communications they want to get from us. For classes and clubs, I would always select the category that describes yours. I would avoid using general information. So that's just my piece of advice. The next thing you're going to do is a notification email. Notification email is the email that when you are sending out emails, iModules will notify this email address when emails have been sent out. And so my suggestion is to use the email notification that you use yourself for every day. That's just where the email is going to go. Next thing is a from name. From names are going to be either your name or your association. This is for classes and clubs. Claire, do we have mainly classes or clubs in this event? You're muted, so I can't tell.
Sorry about that. I said clubs.
Clubs. All right, great. So often there's a discussion over whether you should use a club name or a person's name. My suggestion is to use the club's names because sometimes, sorry, that was my mic. Are you done now? That's Lee. Lee's going to do push-ups now because she's ruined my presentation. Sorry. That's okay. So what you want to do is often you would use the Cornell Mid-Hudson Alumni Association, so at least people know where that's coming from. You could use your name. You do sometimes risk the chance of people don't know you. They may consider it spam and not get it, but that's a choice you can make. The from email is going to be when they receive the email is where is the email coming?
Ron, I want to let you know that we do have a class volunteer on. That was my mistake.
Oh, great. Okay. Hello, class person. Is you can use your from email. I have a suggestion. It's not a requirement. It is a suggestion that if you can use your Cornell email address, that reduces the chance of an email provider thinking that the email is spam. It's just a suggestion at my point. You don't have to use it. If your email you wanted to put there ron.babuca@hotmail.com, there might be a decent chance of that being flagged as spam. That's why my suggestion is just always to use your cornell.edu. Because if you think about it this way, the email is coming from iModules through Cornell, and if we put iModules Cornell and we put hot link on it, it kind of just makes it look a little bit more spammy. The reply is also where would the emails go to if somebody wanted to reply. Again, my suggestion is to use your cornell.edu, but it is not required. Subject. Subject is always going to populate with your association or class name, your club or your class name, and it puts these little brackets at the end. If you send it, those brackets will show up. And right above it is that's the subject, and below it is the pre-header. If you think about it this way, especially if you look at mobile devices, there's usually a subject, and then there's a pre-header below it. This is what my always suggestion is: have a subject that makes sense, like say mid Hudson breakfast for new students. So this might be an event you're holding with new Cornell students, you all get to meet each other. And then you might want to have a pre-header like, come meet the class of 2000 and what is it, 20 new Cornell students. So the thing I always tell Cornell students. So what I always tell people is that the pre-header supports the subject. You can click here to get a little input about best subject line practices. But if you kind of remember pre-header supports the subject, you'll be fine. This little section over here is tokens. This brings over database values such as your person's first name and put it in the subject. That's really a email 202, a more advanced concept. So I'm going to skip that for right now. You're not required to use that. Email footers. Email footers, you have an option of an unsubscribe link only or an email marketing footer. And basically the email marketing emails is a larger banner that goes at the bottom of your emails. If you only want to have the unsubscribe link, which is like a little tiny hyperlink that says unsubscribe for here, please click this, it's your choice. You can actually end up as a test, send emails to yourself or to other small limited number group of folks and see how you like it. There's no right or wrong. I always tell people try this one first, and if you hate the way it looks, your next email, just do an unsubscribe link, and you can kind of decide which one you like best. View email in browsers. That puts a little hyperlink on an email when it gets sent out at the top of the email that allows them to open it up in a web browser as opposed to your email. My suggestion is always to leave these two checked. So now that we're all done, we're going to save and continue. If we needed to stop
Ron, we have a question about where the pre-header shows in the email. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, let me take 2 seconds, and I'm going to bring up my, while we're looking here, I'm going to bring up my email on my phone. And I'm going to switch to make sure I'm, share. Are we seeing me at all? Stop sharing. Do we see me now? All right, can anybody see this? So if you look at your mobile devices on your phone, you'll often see a subject. So on this is the exact thing it says, right here it says save 20% on your StubHub order. The pre-header is the information right below it. Does that make sense? So if you look at your mobile devices, it'll make quite clear sense to you. That would be my suggestion. It's usually you have the subject and then the pre-header is right below it.
And it does depend on the service you're using, or like you'll be able to see pre-headers also in Gmail on the web app for that, not necessarily on your phone, but you'll see it on a desktop. And we recommend that you use pre-headers because if you don't, the first thing someone will see is an unsubscribe link. So it's just an opportunity to utilize to get someone to be all the more interested in opening your email.
All right, and so the second I just did that, I lost my little link to get back into this session. So I'm not seeing my share again. So bear with me for a second while I try to find this. Okay. Sign in. Why am I having to sign in? Oh, goodness gracious. This is what happens when I get off script. All right, that's not the button.
If you toggle to the little Zoom icon on the bottom right of your desktop run, you should be able to see the meeting, like Zoom meeting.
There I am. All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Am I showing up back up again?
Yes.
All
We can
right.
see your screen.
Perfect. I apologize for that. So now that we're done, I want to hit save and continue. I can hit done to just stay where I am and it will show up in the saved drafts. I'm going to hit save and continue. Whoops. Form name. I didn't put my from name in there. And I'm going to hit save and continue. And now we're going to go to the template section. For each class and club, we provide a layout and a template. My suggestion for this class, and all I'm going to discuss in this class, is that we're going to use a mobile-ready single column. And this means that these template, which is right here, has been vetted and ensures that it works with almost all mobile devices and with almost all email readers. We at Cornell and iModules constantly update these templates to make sure everything works in perfect order with these emails, that there doesn't display in a slightly different manner. So my suggestion is always pick single column ready and clubs and classes CTA. So we're going to hit that. We're going to hit save and continue. And now we're going to see the content. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is notice how we went from when I hit our detail, the check marks was marked. And now we're working this section. You'll notice that this section right here, choose a template, is grayed out. That's because once you've chosen a template, you are committed. You cannot go back and use a different template. If for some reason you decided not to use this template, you would have to delete this video and just start again. But since at this point, in terms of this class, we're always going to use the one template, we're just moving forward. So now what you've got is, this is the body of which you're going to be working in. You have a couple different sections. This is the banner section. This is the body section. And this is the footer section. So in front of each section, we usually have a little thing where we can move the content block, and that is from here to the next set of controls. We can edit the block, or we can delete the block. And if you hover your mouse over it, in case you forget what they are, it will tell you what it is. So we have 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 5 blocks. So for this purpose, I'm going to do a couple little different things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we put a banner in here, and then I'm going to show you how we can edit some of this content. And the basic section works. And also in here, this is often provided so that if you had a link to another registration for an event, you can put this button in here. But let's move forward. The first thing we're going to do is we want to put a banner on top. Let's edit this section. I'm going to click Edit Content. It's going to bring up a window. Now, everybody wants to go in here and start to hit keystrokes. This is a really important thing, is it's a preview window. So what it does is it says, this is what it's going to look like right now if we send it out. Up on this little pencil, you always want to look for the pencils. If we click on the pencil, it's going to open up a little block here. That block we just saw. I want to make sure I'm clicking inside the block, so now anything I do is going to happen inside that block. This is a very common looking thing you'll see on a lot of different applications that use Windows products and Apple products. Also, if you do your club's websites, you'll also see this exact same layout. The nice thing here is if you move your hand over, or the mouse or the cursor over each little section, it will tell you what it can do. So for this context of a banner, what we often want to do is we want to put a picture in here. The first piece of advice is you never want to cut and paste from something like Word or someplace else and put it in here. That will often create problems because there's styling behind cutting and pasting. So we always want to go to our image manager to process and adjust images in. I'm going to click Image Manager. You will normally not see this message. This is because I'm a super administrator working in another areas, in another club's area. So you wouldn't see that. This is a little block where we can store images. So that's what we're going to do is we want to take an image that you've created, store it in iModules, and then transfer it to the section here. So what we can do is we can build a file structure by clicking on this little button, and that will create a new folder. Now we've got our little, let's ingest an image. If you'll notice that when it said that that was 600 by 175, My suggestion is always, if you is possible, is work on your images for a banner outside of iModules, then ingest it in. So what I'm going to do is, assuming I've done that, I want to upload an image. I click on the upload button. Now I want to go over and select a image to bring into iModules. Select the button. It's going to take me to my pictures folder. I'm going to find an image that I want to use. And I just so happen to have set up an image that was 600 by 175 pixels. Select that image and say open. It's going to bring it up into here. And now I say upload. This will tell you the size of the file allowed. And these are the type of files that you can bring in. I'm going to say upload. And voila, there's a picture. If I want to drag it into a folder, I can. Let's say I know I want to select that one. Now it's going to put the image right here. I can adjust the properties if I needed to. I can change the width and the height. These are tied together, so it will remain, keep those ratios. So let's say it's 600 by 175. I know exactly what it is. I can come over here and I can say, insert this image. Now it's going to show me what it looks like. That looks good to me. I save this version. It brings it over the preview. That looks like a great squirrel picture. I'm going to save and load the content. And voila, it's taking a picture of the squirrel and it's put up in a banner. That's now my banner. Now let's say I want to get down into this section and I want to update some information. Again, same exact thing. I will edit the content. Same preview appears. I'm going to come up to the pencil. I'm going to edit that. And now what it's done is in our, excuse me, in our template we provided you, we've put these rows. If you ever worked with iModule, or not iModules, if you ever work with Word, you know that you can insert in, if I right-click, columns. We've provided this as a template for you. The important thing you know is if you play to the right, you can delete rows and delete columns. For this example, I'm not going to change it. The good thing you can always know is that if you get into this section and all of a sudden it's just become big gobbledygook stuff, you can just hit cancel, and it's just going to go back to where I was. And then all I have to do is go back in and start over again. So I can change this to be Cornell Club of Ithaca, for example. I can change a headline here, change headline, all right? And these are all kind of features that I can type in. Again, my suggestion is always to not cut and paste anything in. If you had a Word document and wanted to cut and paste it in, there is a bit, run the risk of styling behind in the Word document coming over. My suggestion is one of two things. You can either use this little feature, which is paste from Word. If you click this, it will open up a little window, copy and paste your word into here, and then paste it. It will remove any styling, or you can just copy and paste it into any kind of a text editor, like WordPad, Notepad. That also usually reduces any styling. Another thing you can do is add in a hyperlink. You never want to copy and paste a hyperlink in. You want to use the hyperlink tool. Here is where I can put in www.cornell.edu. I can give it that link of text, Cornell University. I can give it a tooltip, which is if I right-click to select Cornell website. When I put my cursor over top that hyperlink, this is what will be displayed. All right. If I click that, there's my link. I'm just adding a little space in here. I can go back to that hyperlink tool again, and I can also submit an email address. I can put wrb1@cornell.edu. I can put the name of the person, and I can put a tooltip of email Ron. If I do that, I put my cursor over it, it won't do it. Oh, it does. It says email Ron. So I can do all these kinds of things in here. I can take this and say, please come to my birthday party. I can add a date and time. And I can spell party correctly. One thing I wanted to show you is there's a little feature that says design. If you accidentally click hyperlink, it's going to go to writing a pure HTML. I'm going to ask that you please not do that. The hyperlink markup language that you write here is interpreted by iModules. So you may write perfectly good HTML and it may not work as you expected because iModules is also grabbing that HTML and interpreting it. Also, if you do that, it is sometimes difficult for us to fix an issue. The more you stay with what we deliver, the easier it is for me to come in if you have a problem with the email to help you out. So it just makes it a little easier on all the parties involved. You can bold, you can italicize, you can underline, you can left shift, right shift, you can all these little features. One of the things you'll also notice is that there's not a great amount of font control you have over here. That is an iModulism. Our template is come with style sheets with fonts that we feel are good, and that's what we've provided at this point. So if I save this, here's the preview. Should have my email. Here's what it looks like again. If that looks right, I will save and load the content. Now it's changed. If for some reason I am not including a button, and again, all this is a hyperlink. If I can delete this, and I'll delete that in a second. But if I wanted to kind of show you how it looks, it opens up. There's a preview. Click this. Click inside here. And then if I click this hyperlink button, it will show you what it's going to do. So that's all that is. They've just preloaded a cute little button in there. And so how that's often used is that if you had an event that you wanted to link to where somebody could register, you can use that button. I'm going to X out of here because I'm not making any changes. This little section is the footer. Again, the same concepts. If you go into the footer and edit it, hit the little button, you can click here, click the hyperlink tool, and you can assign your own company or your own organization's Twitter feed. And you can do Facebook. Again, if I wanted to put an image in here or change any of this text, I can go ahead and save it. And the good thing about this is I'm going to tell you a strategy that we often suggest people use is create an email that you want to use, and then you can reuse the email. So if you build this, say if this banner is one you want to use every little time, if you reuse this email, and I'll show you how to do that, you don't have to rebuild this every time. There are more advanced ways to save contact blocks that you can reuse over and over and over. That's a more advanced subject we'll get to in a future training class. I actually describe this in our training material on the blog site. So you can go there if you wanted to use it. But for this class, I'm not going to really discuss that much in detail. So now I've got this email just about the way I want it. I'm going to hit save and continue again. The next step is the send preview. The send preview is a way that it is required before you send out an email to your population. You must send a preview. You can send a preview to just yourself, or you can add in other people, lrs99@cornell.edu. I add that in, and you can add in anybody in your organization that you also want to send an email to. If you scroll down, often sometimes people go, what do I do now that I've done this? You gotta remember, scroll down here, and I will send a preview. I would leave all this other stuff alone. At this point, we're not going to really discuss that. Send a preview. What did I do here? Oh, good. Okay. Don't worry about that. For a second, I saw that little image, and I lost my brain for a second. Now we've sent a preview. You only have to send a preview once. If you go back and change the content, You do not have to send a preview. It is not required. Hey, Cornell hockey, woo, go Big Red. All right. So again, I can always go back to a step. I can change the details. I can change the content. If I wanted to resend a preview, now in a perfect world, if I open up my email in a minute, I'm going to check scene right now. Did I get a preview? Not yet. All right. But it may take a couple minutes to get the, oh, right there it showed up. Let's go back and open this up. If I open up my inbox and I go to the top, here's my preview. This is a little, I can right click, download pictures. There's my banner. This will kind of let everybody get an opportunity to see what you're going to send out before you send it out. The next step is choosing the recipients. Again, I can hit done, and I just want to kind of show you the guys this. If I hit done, I'm all done. Oh, there's my email I was working on. So it's just going back to the save draft. I can come in the next day, open this up. It's going to take me right back to where I left up. So the next thing we're going to talk about is who do you send out your list of recipients? Now, there is one slight difference between classes and clubs. And again, in the documentation on the blog site, I do describe this in a little bit more detail. For the first example's sake, I'm going to discuss clubs. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to subscribe for classes. What we really want to do is we always want to be going to data viewer. And we're going to use the data viewer to do a query. And for this example, I'm going to build a new query. And I'm going to hit next. If we had already had a query saved and we wanted to keep using a query, we could sit there and say use a saved query. But for right now, this example, I'm going to create a new query. And this will be for a club. All I need to do is add in some fields. In the documentation, I will tell you that the fields you really want to have in is your club name. And the other one is your primary constituent type. We're going to add selected fields. Now, I will tell you in all honesty, you actually do not need to have this one, but I think it's a best practice to do it anyway. So you would come down here, and this just guarantees that you're going to mail out to people only in your community. I will tell you that you can only mail out to people in your community, in your club or your class, because we limit the population to people that we have placed in your clubs. For example's sake, the Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson, the population is limited to people who have a zip code within that club's community. You can work with your engagement officer to determine what those zip codes are, but we pre-populate that. So right now there are 150,000 mailable emails that could be sent out. The Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson maybe has 5,000. That club cannot send out more than those 5,000 people. So that gives you a little bit of protection from mailing out everybody in the world. But for example's sake, let's find the Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson. And it's in here somewhere, and I have to scroll down and find it. And it's in here, and right there it is. So if I select that body, the next one you want to select is your primary constituent type. Now, again, if you need clarification in the future, you can talk to your engagement history, but we provide each person in the system with how do they relate to Cornell. We have an alumni, we have alumni non-degreed. Those are people who matriculated but did not degree. We have faculty, friends, non-alumni, spouse alumni, parents, staff, and students. Normally, the suggestion for most clubs is they would want to pick alumni, and by holding down my shift key, I can select both alumni and non-degreed. You may choose to only include alumni. You may choose to say alumni and faculty. That is your choice who you want to populate. Again, if you have questions, you can talk to your alumni engagement officer about who is the best population. One thing I always advise people, parents is anybody who ever was a parent. It is not active parents of current students. So just want to make sure everybody, that's why it's really good. If you're not sure of who you're inviting, ask your alumni engagement officer and they can help you with that. So let's say for this example, I'm going to pick alumni and I'm going to say Mid-Hudson folks. What I can do is I can say apply query. That will give me an idea of who I'm sending it to, or I can hit the next button. I'm going to hit the next button just to move through it. I want to save this query. I can give this a name, says Hudson parents. I can describe that right here. And I can hit save. That tells me right off the bat that there are 930 people currently in your community that we can email. All right. What I want to now do is I want to reset for a section, and I'm going to come back and we're going to move through this, but how would I do this if I was a class site? And if I configure, create a new query, and I can do the same thing as I'm going to say primary constituent type, because we always want to be selecting that one. But there is for classes, preferred class year. And everything will be the same, except for I would pick alumni. But for the class years, you want to pick the class year. If you're the class of 73, you want to pick 73. And then you could move forward. Everything else works the same. So let's go back. I want to remove this criteria. And I'm going to add a field again to get back to exactly where we were, which is, what was it? Club name, right? I'm going to add field. I'm going to go back and we're going to quickly try to find the Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson. Lee can yell out when she sees it. Oh, there it is. I'm going to say next. I'm not going to save it for this example's sake. And now it says 930 members. Now, sometimes people ask, how do I go about and include people who aren't in the Cornell community? Say that you want to include people who, like the mayor of whatever town. He's not in the Cornell community. What you can do is you can hit this little button here that says custom list. And you can create a list. You'll notice I already created a list called mayor. You can create a new list if you want to, called mayor example. And I can put in here any address I'd like to. That's going to save it. And I want to include list. Now you'll notice that there's 930 people plus 1. We request that you only use this for people who are not in the Cornell community. It has to do with the type of data that is recorded when you use that. And so now you're saying, all right, I have my next list of folks. Now remember this said 930 and 1. I'm going to hit save and continue. One of the things that will happen is that list of 930 is who it thinks it can mail to. You may not actually send out that number of emails. It's going to try to send out that number of emails. What may happen is that only 800 actually get out because we can't control what happens to the emails once they're sent out. Somebody may, it may bounce for them. For some reason, their internet provider, their email provider will not accept that email. So that number may drop. But we've basically decided we're going to send out 930 emails. Those are everybody who is not deceased, who has not opted out, who has not opted out of that category. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to select immediately or in the future. My suggestion is always to use in the future. Pick a time in the future, a date or a time. This will always give you the ability to stop the email. So you may sit there and say, I'm going to send this email out in an hour. That gives you another hour if all of a sudden something comes into your head or somebody says, oh, don't send that out, something's changed. It gives you a backup plan. So I can pick a time and I can say 5 o'clock p.m. And then if I hit save and continue, it's going to come up with another screen that says, we are going to send out an email at 5 o'clock, and it's going to be, we're going to try to send it to 931 people. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to risk actually sending out an email. And then it would move from, remember how we had the save folder, save draft, it would move to released. Once it's actually sent, it goes from release to the history. So that's all we need to do now. And once we sit there, it's in the schedule. Once we hit, she should say it's good to go. It goes into release. For now, for example, what I wanted to show is I'm going to go to another site. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to go to one of our trusted favorite sites, Mid-America. And this is Marty Lustig out in Mid-America. And we use them all the time for examples of what really things look like. It's spinning for a second. Sometimes it happens when we're going to IMAT. Sometimes it just takes a second. And it's spinning and it's spinning. There we go. So I email home. Here are all the emails that they have sent. He's got one he's working on. None have been released, and now these are ones sent. So now you're saying, I sent out my email. What can I do with it? I can look at the recipient list. For most of your clubs and classes, it's just going to be a selection criteria, so it's really not going to tell you a lot. I can look at an email exception report. That's kind of interesting, because I can open this up, and you're going to see this. Here was the email that was sent out. Here was the criteria. It attempted to send out, their total number of recipients were 1,641, but it actually only sent out 687. Because this is why, right in here. Some of them were duplicate emails, some were flagged as invalid, some were dead. So it gives you a little bit of a breakdown. One cool thing you can actually kind of do is you can download your exception report. This creates a little Excel spreadsheet that if I open up, it says, here's the ID of the person. This is a Cornell ID. Here's their preferred name, preferred last name, the EMPL ID. And the reason why the email did not get to them. It's obvious here. This one is empty because they had no email address. This was an invalid email address for some reason. This email, he opted out of receiving emails from us. So there's all kinds of things you can kind of go through. And if somebody says, I didn't get my email, the first thing I would do is look at this exception report and see if they're in here. All right. Anymore, if for some reason somebody still says they didn't get your email, I would always have them check their junk folder, their clutter folder. And if they still say they didn't get your email, you can work with your engagement officer who can contact us, and we can do a little bit more digging behind the scene. All right. I'm going to close out of that. Don't save it. That's a cool little feature. Another thing you can do is, I said, is you can reuse an email. Reuse the email takes it from here, moves it up to here, and you can reuse it over again. So if you have an invite that you're sending out constantly, just reuse it. The email will open up with the same template. You'll have to put the new detail information in. And then all you can do is change some of the content. If it's a different date, go in and open the email, change the date, and then resend it again. I strongly suggest reusing emails. It's a great way to efficiently send them all out. Another thing you can do is, I tell a lot of folks, is go to the beta report. If you open this up, and I'm going to be done pretty quick, Claire, to make sure we have questions. I can take an email that was sent out, and I can find my email, click on it, and first thing I'm going to tell you is this is a beta site. So this doesn't always work for every event. Let me try again. So where am I? I lost track of where I was. Am I in? I'm just going to make sure I get back to the Hudson. Mid-America, search, open it up, go to my email, beta reporting. And again, this is beta. They're still working out the kinks and the bugs. It's pretty soon it won't be beta. And if you open up this one, there we go. You can click on these little buttons and each section will tell you how many were delivered, how many were actually opened, how many people actually clicked on a link, how many were banned. Now the cool feature is if you click on this, it should give me a list of everybody. So you can always go back here and say, I sent out X number of emails, who opened them, who clicked on them. Again, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, maybe the next month, I'll have this all worked out. But that's a great way to kind of actually see how effective my emails were. I can tell you right off the bat, if you're getting anything above 25% emails actually are opened, that's pretty good. Clubs tend to be around 25 to 35%. Cornell as a whole is actually around 25%. We actually have a pretty good engagement. So if you sit there and say to yourself, I sent out an email inviting people to an event and I didn't get a lot of people attending the event, well, bear in mind you're probably only getting about 25% of the people are actually opening up an email. So let me think about if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. That's about it for this Email 101. Again, I'm going to suggest playing. The first thing I almost suggest doing is practicing a little bit, sending previews to the folks you know. If you want to send out a test email just to yourself and a couple of folks, go through your engagement officer, contact me. I will walk you through that process. There is a way we can do it. I'm not going to demo it here, but just to know that you don't have to send out your first email to everybody in the world. You can do a test run if you want to feel comfortable doing it for the first time. Claire, I think I'm pretty good for right now. So I'm
Great. So if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or to unmute yourself and ask them aloud. Yeah, like Ron said, your engagement officers are always really glad to talk about email marketing in the nitty-gritty or to talk about it as a whole and give you some advice for strategy and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And like Ron said, we're looking into putting together a webinar on email marketing best practices and some of our reporting, and we have another guru on staff who can help with that. So these webinars will continue. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing any questions so far, but I'd like to reiterate that Ron and myself are always available if you have questions. And I will be sending out a survey after this, and we would really appreciate your feedback on this webinar. So I guess if there's not anything from the group, then we'll call the meeting to a close. But Ron, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm seeing some.
And also, just as a reminder again, Claire is recording this on that blog site. We're going to have this video on there, so you can watch this again if you want to hear my voice.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone very much, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ron.